Meet Charlton Rhodes. Originally from Fort Myers, Florida, he is a licensed clinical social worker with a private practice in Atlanta, Georgia. Charlton is the author of the best-selling book, The Dating Cookbook, 5 Things to Know About Men and Women While Dating. Charlton is a devoted father of 2 children. He is passionate about music, sports, traveling, social justice, and mental health in the Black community. Happy Thursday! Welcome to another episode of I Need a Session. I'm your host, Kim Wilson. Thank you so much for joining me. I have the amazing Charlton Rhodes, a therapist, author, speaker with me today. Hi, Charlton.
Kim, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too. I'm so excited about the episode. Yes. For those of you who ordered your books from last time, get them out. Get them out. We are doing it. We are having a Q&A and discussion about the Dating Cookbook, Charlton's book. You know, I don't like to waste any time, and we're going to get right to it.
All right.
I have this section that I have carved out, and I want to start the discussion from there. I'll read a little bit, and then I'll open up the floor for people to ask questions. I'm saying open up the floor. I'm thinking we're in the building, you know? Yeah. Open up this virtual space.
That's right. Yep.
So Charlton, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
So the aim of this book is to dig a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of trying to understand who is at fault or what men and women should be doing differently to make each other happy, we will take a deeper dive into a fundamental understanding of men and women in general. One thing I've come to believe in my time as a licensed therapist and as a husband/ex-husband is that every man and woman go into their relationships and marriages with the best intentions and high hopes that it will last forever, even with the daunting numbers that reveal only half of the people who stand at the altar and say, "I do," will actually go the distance. Oh,
yeah.
Charlton.
That's a mouthful, right?
Yes, unpack that.
Yeah. This relationship landscape that we're in today, like this is a modern world, modern dating, modern ideas and everything. The traditional ways are going away, and some of them were helpful because we used to depend on each other a little bit more, let's say back in the day. But now it's a lot of independence on both sides. Men and women can really take care of themselves for the most part. They can see a life where an individual can sustain. So with that being said, it's sort of like relationships become more optional, or they just become based on emotions. They can become fleeting emotions. So it's a lot of finger pointing back and forth. Like you've heard probably stuff like, "What do you bring to the table?"
Ooh.
And all of that. And there's some narratives that are put in our ear early from when I remember growing up. Certain movies and music would paint a picture of men or women. And it's sort of like, all right, well, you're the problem. Y'all need to do this. Y'all need to do better at that. And, you know, like I said in the book, you do go into marriage, particularly relationships. You're like, hey, I want to do the best I can do. I find somebody that I'm attracted to, that I feel chemistry, compatibility. And then all of a sudden stuff starts unraveling. And it's sort of like, man, why do you think that way? Why did you say that? Why didn't you do this? And instead of going to that default of saying, let me point the finger and what you said was wrong, what you did was wrong. Why don't you think this way? That's a value system. In therapy, we talk about that all the time. Value systems are different. And men and women are very different at the core. I do believe. I got a son and a daughter from the day they were born. I could tell this is different. And I was raised by women. I've been married. I've got a daughter close to a lot of women throughout the years working in mental health. I've been in classrooms where I was the only guy. So I started, to notice, I can appreciate those differences. And sometimes men and women can get things out of whack sometimes some of our natural characteristics can become a little exaggerated, and they it can cause problems. So this book is just to try to pull out a few things, not all inclusive, but a few things that may be different about men and women, and they miss each other. Because I'm not seeing the world the same way that the woman does. I'm prioritizing different things. I'm thinking over here that this is what I need to do, and she's from a different angle, and we're supposed to complement each other. That's the design. And it's not supposed to be everybody thinking the same way. If you think the same way, you fall in the same hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So
Yeah, I want to get right there. You said from a different angle, we're
mhm,
supposed to complement each other,
mhm,
and that's what I think about when I think about the dating cookbook, and I think about recipes.
mhm,
So when I put like some items on the counter, I put butter, I put flour,
mhm,
I
mhm.
put oil. All of those things alone, they are items. When I put them together,
Yep.
I'm creating a recipe.
Mhm.
And at first, I get the batter, and then
Yeah.
if I'm really paying attention, I'm going to become a cake. And
Yeah.
that cake is going to be yummy if I followed the recipe.
Mhm.
So when I go back to something you said earlier, when you think about certain movies that we may have watched or
Mhm.
even music, and if you don't have a certain awareness or you're paying attention to what's going across your eye gate or what's going into your ear gate,
Mhm.
you could be putting together a recipe. Mm.
Yeah. A recipe for disaster.
Yes, a
Yeah.
recipe
That's
for
right.
disaster.
Mhm.
Yes. I want to go a little bit further in your book. Hi, Tamika. Thank you so much for joining. If you're on Facebook, I can't see your comments from here. Thank you all for joining. I see you putting your hearts up and your like signs up. Thank you all. All right. So I want to go a little bit further in the book. Listen, if you don't have your copy, you need to just go ahead and get over to Amazon right now, honey. Because I
Sell
can
it.
give you this whole recipe.
Right. Yep, it's on Amazon now. It's not a long book either. It's a quick read, just a little bit over 100 pages, so it shouldn't take too long to get through it.
Yes, a wonderful tool. So, you know, I always one of my favorite titles actually. I think
Hmm.
I probably want to do a podcast with that being said.
Hmm.
With that being said, let me I believe that the entire relationship experience can be broken down into three major components,
Hmm.
similar to the components of preparing a delicious meal.
Hmm.
The three components are: the first one is choosing the right person, the second one is understanding and relating to each other, and the
Hmm.
third one is damage control. I
Yep.
want to go to damage control.
Hmm.
Take me to damage control.
Damage control is therapy in a nutshell. That means every now and then life gets unpredictable. So, say for instance, 2020, the pandemic broke out and people had to work from home. And for the first time in marriages, that they husband and wife, they couldn't leave and get their 8 hours out in the workforce. So they realized, man, this is showing me a lot that I didn't know about this person that I've been living with. And that's a global change, but every individual has small things that impact their life each day, sometimes big, sometimes small. But damage control is literally saying, hey, we are off track. We got off track somewhere. Instead of pointing the finger and blaming and saying, oh, you need to do this so I can be happy, find a therapist. I love doing couples therapy. Some people avoid it, I'm sure you know, because it's intense. You got two people sitting there and it's like live fire, and somebody's feelings might be hurt if you say the wrong thing. And
Yes.
you usually have one person that's on the fence about being there because they already in the back of their mind. They're like, am I going to be double teamed on today?
Yes,
So we
yes,
try to create a space where everybody can say, hey, this is what I'm seeing from this other person, and my significant other is not, meeting my need. So let's hear it from a non-biased third party that's trained to deal with some of these issues.
Yes, um, creating that safe space. When I think about, just if I just kind of go to this place of, if somebody was to fall off their bike, or they were
Hmm.
to have an injury
Yeah,
and it's beyond what a band-aid needs, we're going to take it to the emergency room.
hmm, that's
Um,
right. Hmm.
when your marriage is bleeding, meaning,
Yeah.
um, we're past yelling. There are threats on the table.
Hmm.
Just, your peace is totally disturbed and removed. Where are
Right.
you going to go to get that back? You
Hmm.
pack all of that up and you take it to therapy so you
Yeah.
can, yeah. And I love that damage control, because if the damage is there, how are you going to control that and repair that? It is repairable,
Hmm.
especially if you have somebody who specializes in human behavior
Yeah.
to help you with that.
Sometimes you get support from your friends, family, or the church or whatever, but specifically trained to deal with it. That's the part I like what you said. It's
Yeah.
it's very important because the damage, it could be minor in the beginning, like you fall off and scrape your leg, but if you don't treat it, it starts to fester and it can turn into something bigger. So the earliest you can get in and say, "We may be a little off right now," instead of burying it, you try to. I tell in relationship sessions most of the time, there's three options that people choose when their needs are not met. One is you communicate and seek therapy to try to work through and try to find common ground again. That's the one that we hope that people will choose. The other one is to just bury it, and resentment grows. It's like a cancer. It's like, oh, you're not meeting my needs. I'm just gonna hold it in and just I don't want to even rock the boat. I'm gonna just bury it, but that stuff just builds up and builds up, and you eventually you just explode one day. Like, where'd that come from? And the third one is cheating. It's like,
Woo,
all right, my needs aren't being met. I'm gonna go find it from somewhere else. We
woo.
don't we don't want those last two.
No,
It's
no,
not,
no,
and
no.
it's not the only. It's like, oh well, I had no other choice. You didn't listen to me. There's a choice that I believe that people aren't. It takes a lot of maturity, but say, hey, and humility as well. Like we don't know what's happening right now. We can't fix it. Let's get a little bit of help.
Yeah, when I hear number two, we bury it. It makes me think about the titles of one of my favorite books, "Feelings Buried Alive Never Die."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Exactly. Hmm.
I mean, so we are ready for some of those questions. Bring them up. Thank you all. Thank you to everybody that sent in questions. So some of you couldn't be on tonight, but you sent your questions, and I thank you for that, because there are some people who are going to see this
Hmm.
show 2 weeks from now, even 2 months from now. And it's going to be helpful to them. So let's
Hmm.
get to it.
Yeah.
Is it okay to have a long checklist when seeking potential mates? Go ahead, Charlton.
Fun. That's a fun question. A long checklist. Short answer, I would say the longer the checklist of things that you're desiring, the smaller your pool may get. But I would say that a long list of your personal values is where it should start. You
Ooh,
want to know what you stand for.
oh, go ahead,
You
Charlton.
would say, so, it's not complicated in my opinion. It's you want to know yourself really,
Woo.
really well and say, this is what I stand for and know why. I stand for this and this is why. It's not because of what I heard way back when. It's what I believe in today that works for me today.
Oh, let
And
me get in right there. See, this is what the difference comes in at. When people they say, "Oh, I can get on and talk about relationships." Now, see, the therapist is in the building. See what
see
the
there?
therapist,
That's right.
the therapist, he came right in with the personal values. Boom. All
Hmm.
right.
That's right.
Love
Yeah.
that. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the short answer. I try to keep it short and simple. But if you know yourself, you'll be able to find that, hey, you're not going to find a perfect person. That's in the book as well.
Hmm.
So understanding, hey, this is who I am, and we want to be complete. I tell everybody that two healthy individuals have a shot. It's not guaranteed, but they have a decent shot at a long term healthy relationship. So you individual making sure that you're whole and complete and become interdependent. That's the goal, to say, all right, I don't need you to complete me, but if you complement me, then we can achieve whatever the purpose is that we have. But specifically that question about a list of things that I'm looking for, it's fine to have a list, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But it doesn't serve you unless your stuff is together, unless your values in the right order, and understanding that you're gonna have to sacrifice. We all got to make sacrifices. We don't get everything we want. So I ask people a lot of times in therapy, what red flag are you willing to accept? And it's usually it's a lot of crickets when you ask them that.
Oh,
We don't want any of those.
no, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next question. Let's do it. What's your opinion about finances in the home if you're not married? Opinion on household chores and meals.
Okay. The first one, well, finances if you're not married. That's the marriage part is that's another value system, basically. Like, there's certain things that people believe should take place in marriage, and I don't try to police value systems. If you believe in it and it serves you, then we work with that. But finances is a big issue. Like, it can be one of the biggest issues in a marriage specifically. We know the statistics on that. But understanding that there's limitations. Money is a limited resource for most of us. And the expectations, they can vary. Every individual couple has two dynamics. Some women make more than men now. Some men still carry the load. That's the traditional model. But it should be a conversation. It should be handled. Every person should have a voice when it comes to, like, who's doing what. And the idea is you're a team. So even if you had two separate checking accounts, if you're saying that we are together, married or not, we're in this together, that means you got two pools of resources that you put together and say, oh, at the end of the day, is it more important to me that I got this amount at the end of the month left over, or is it important that we feel connected and we make sacrifices in that regard? So what's the second part of that question? It was about chores.
You know what? You hit it, because by the time you say the word team, Charlton, that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the time I hear we are a team,
Mm-hmm.
there's there's no team.
That's right. It's all about us. It's I mean, money is an important tool. And if you get too emotionally attached to it, it can become problematic.
Ooh,
But
emotionally attached to money. When I think about emotional attachment to money, I think about that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street.
right, yeah. That was one of my favorites. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
money gives you power and respect. And a lot of people love that. It's addictive. And being able to, have nice things and luxury. We're in an era of luxury. This modern world. Think about. I didn't, growing up, I didn't see regular people wearing Gucci and Louis Vuitton and stuff. Like, that was for celebrities. That was specifically for the wealthy. That was their status, part of their status. But now it's sort of like live in a city like Atlanta too. You can't go anywhere. You go to Publix or wherever, and you see people, living that lifestyle differently on social media. Everybody's got that image, so it can pull you into that, and it's like all that stuff financially can become a problem. But the whole chores thing, that's why if you look at the cover of the book, I designed this to answer that part. The guy's preparing the meal, and you can see how it looks like his wife is just coming home from her nice job. And, that there's teamwork there.
That's it.
Some of the gender roles have evolved, and not saying that, every individual couple, you pitch in. Not what you do today, it can't be like every single day for the rest of my life. I'm gonna do this. We teammates, they help out. When you down, I'm gonna pick up on this side. Somebody gets COVID, they gotta stay quarantined for 2 weeks. You gotta pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being flexible.
Yes. Before we go to our next question, chapter 5 is men seek to avoid stress and drama.
Hmm.
And you start that chapter by saying, this ties closely into the concept of the previous chapter. That's why you got to get the book so you can know what the previous chapter is.
Hmm.
However, there are some slight differences between how men view simplicity and how they seek to avoid stress and drama. Side note, this does not mean that men cannot be the cause of stress and drama sometimes for women.
Hmm.
Overall, it speaks to the overall general demeanor of a man as being calm and peaceful. If his environment is too stressful or filled with drama, he will try to find ways to escape that environment.
Hmm.
Yeah. And when you all purchase a book, there's a really great conversation um, that Charlton unpacks how men perceive things and how women perceive things. And that's the question that a lot of people want to know
Hmm.
whenever somebody does a show like this,
Hmm.
how men see things and how women see things.
Yeah.
Unpack that a little bit, just, when there's a stressful environment and the response
Yeah.
that we typically see from the different genders.
Hmm. Stress is something that can trigger really strong emotions because men, you've heard this term maybe that men are fixers. We don't really automatically listen to support. We listen to fix something. What do I need to do to get this situation resolved? And if things get stressful, we're trying to find the quickest solution to defuse it so that we can go back to a calm state of being. And if we can't get there, we will escape it because we know if we stay too long, it could trigger something else like the the physical part of our DNA kicks in because we you could call it toxic sometimes. But
Mm,
stress leads to conflict. Conflict can become dangerous, deadly sometimes. There's no stopping point for most men. Our brain wants to finish it. We don't want to sit here and just consciously da, 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 da. We want to resolve it, whether it's avoiding, we fix it. Like again, like the three things with the unmet needs. This is a different variation of that though, because we can get physical, and we don't want to get to that point. Typically, it's like our this steam is boiling up to the top now, so I'm going to get out of here before I explode, and hopefully that kind of answers it in a nutshell. But I break it down a little bit further in there.
yeah, and I think that is so important because that goes back to the three components. That third one, damage control, and it connects to something that you were saying in that answer. That's why therapy is so important
Hmm.
because I want people to know what to do with that stress. I want
Yeah.
people to learn words like self regulation. I want
Hmm.
people to understand what the brain is doing and why relaxation techniques are so important. I want people to understand how they can replace unhealthy behaviors with healthy behaviors.
Hmm.
Understand what that recipe is when those different
Hmm.
ingredients start coming together. Like, listen, there's some chemistry here. You about to put together an explosion, but you
Yeah.
put together
Hmm.
a different recipe.
Yeah.
And that's why I do believe this book is a really helpful and useful tool. So we got
Hmm.
time to take maybe one or two more questions, like a rapid round. See if we can get it. Go ahead and put one more. Let's see if we can get two more questions in.
Why do women think all men are the same?
Oh, go ahead.
Um,
Ooh,
short short answer is they may any particular woman may experience the same type of man over and over again to where it could feel that way. That could be her reality. And I'm sure you talk about this in your therapy, attachment styles. You may be subconsciously drawing the same type of person over and over again and understanding like, well, this is what I'm naturally attracted to. That's the first component, like the selection process. I honestly believe that attraction is not a choice. We are biologically wired to want certain things, and it's hard to override that. I'm the same way. I know certain things that I'm looking for that I'm just, this just what I'm drawn to, and it's not that people try to pick poorly, but sometimes it's our subconscious at work. Sometimes it's the attachment styles, the stuff that we've experienced that just feels normal. Sometimes dysfunction feels normal, even though we realize that this doesn't serve me. But it reminds me, I used to work in foster care early in my career. And children in foster homes, they come from some of the worst environments. But as soon as you put them in a foster home, they're so uncomfortable. They want to go back home to where they, were removed from, even if it was dysfunctional. And that's just the the way the brain works. We like familiarity, but if you're having the same experience with the same type of guys, and I mean, we are honestly very similar in a lot of ways. Putting the list together of traits for men was so easy. I talked to a lot of guys, like from all different walks of life, and we have some real clear cut similarities. And the simplicity of men is pretty much across the board. I'm not saying this is all inclusive, but there are some very consistent things when you deal with men because our value system is very concrete. Typically, growing up, we're into what we're into, and that could be part of it.
Yeah, and that goes back to part of something that you were saying earlier. Um, you have to know yourself when
Yeah.
connected to that personal value system. You have to understand that's why that list of personal values is so important
Hmm.
because then that way anybody just can't get through.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
That's
know
right. Yeah. Hmm.
and and sometimes men, they may not be calling it their personal value system,
Hmm.
but they, like you just said, what you like. It's just kind of, you're able to articulate that.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
sometimes I do find when I ask women, they don't always know, and sometimes it becomes, well, I like who likes me. Whoop.
I've heard that from guys too. I've seen it. I've seen that behavior from guys as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and then the thing is, they already know they're not gonna put a ring on it, and
Yeah.
it's like they have a shelf life for it, you
That's
know.
right. Hmm. Yep. That's absolutely right.
So
But
one more question. Can we
yeah.
get one more question up there? All right. Should I agree to go on a first date with someone I'm not physically attracted to?
Um, it depends. That's a value system. I keep going back to it. If physical appearance is not at the top of your value list, that's fine. That's your choice. Like we have priorities, and it's okay. Like it's great to say I want somebody that makes $10 million, that looks like this, they grew up in this type of home, and have these skills. You got to give on something. You got to. And if physical attraction is not at the top, if this person has a bomb personality and they're loyal and they got good character and they know themselves, they're whole and they're dynamic in so many ways, you might have, an excellent candidate there for a relationship. So physical attraction, you got to figure out where your values are, rank in priority, because everything can't be number one.
Oh, boom! The
Yep.
therapist is in the building.
Yeah.
I love it.
I
Going
feed
back to
off of you, Kim.
I love it. And just so you all know, I've heard Michelle Obama say she wasn't that into Barack in the beginning.
Hmm.
However, I think because she understood her personal value system, that's why
Hmm.
he got that second and third date. So that is so important. Thank you so
That's
much
right.
for those pieces of gold. Yes, I
Hmm.
love it. You all could have been anywhere in this world today, but you chose to hang out with me, and I appreciate that. Do we have that link? I am doing a masterclass on Monday, a relationship masterclass. It's free. It's going to be on August the 8th at 2 p.m. If you would like to join me, only thing you have to do is register. You can go to my website, www.kimwilsonspeaks.com. In the upper right hand corner, click on upcoming events, and you'll find a registration link.
Hmm.
All right, Charlton, any last words you would like to share with our viewers?
I'm just highly motivated to see relationships thrive because I feel like we're excelling as individuals these days. Like people are really doing well, education, career success, financially, physically, we're eating better and taking care of ourselves. But our relationships seem to be regressing in some regard. And I'm hoping that just this book or the work we do in therapy will sort of help push that in a positive direction. So thank you
Yeah.
for having me. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for coming. Don't forget to get your copy of the Dating Cookbook, 5 Things to Know About Men and Women While Dating. You will not be disappointed. Get your book and go ahead and get your friend, your cousin, your sister, your brother,
Yeah,
their birthday.
that's right. Christmas coming up too. This year.
Yes, if anybody has not told you today, let me be the first to tell you, you are amazing. Oh, we won't be on finale. I got some good stuff coming up, but we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.